everybody. What's up? Hello. This is the Moody Reader Podcast, and my name is Ashley Hanna, and we're going to talk about the books that I read, or one book. We're going to do one review today, and that review is going to come after I tell you what I actually did read this week, because it was a struggle, and I need to get my acknowledgement, my flowers, because I was so close to being in a slump because of one book. It tried to get me, it tried to take me under and body me and bury me. And the book that tried to do so to me, which is why I have a vendetta against it, is Thinner by Richard Bachman, Stephen King, obviously. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, hi, this is a podcast where we talk about books, if you are new here. So, yeah, I don't want to talk about this book. It was great for the first 40 pages, and then it was great for the last 10 pages. So that's all you need to know. I read it. I gave it 2 stars. We're moving on with our lives, okay? We're going to move on. So, yeah, I want to just have a nice chit-chat about a book that has my heart, honestly, because this book, I finished it in under 24 hours. It kept me on the edge of my seat, and the end had me like a fish out of water, mouth agape. This book simultaneously watered my crops and restored my faith in YA fantasy in particular, because, I don't know, I just haven't been feeling YA fantasy. But this book is House of Roots and Ruin by Erin A. Craig. This is the sequel, kind of, more of a companion. This is the companion novel to the first book, House of Salt and Sorrows. And that book, I'll put in some B-roll of like what it is and like a little description. So here's that.
Annalee lives a sheltered life at Highmoor, a manor by the sea, with her sisters and their father and stepmother. Once there were 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the girls' lives have been cut short. Each death was more tragic than the last. The plague, a plummeting fall, a drowning, a slippery plunge, and there are whispers throughout the surrounding villages that the family is cursed by the gods. Disturbed by a series of ghostly visions, Annalee becomes increasingly suspicious that her sisters' deaths were no accidents. The girls have been sneaking out every night to attend glittering balls, dancing until dawn in silk gowns and shimmering slippers, and Annalee isn't sure whether to try to stop them or to join their forbidden trysts. Because who, or what, are they really dancing with? When Annalee's involvement with a mysterious stranger who has secrets of his own intensifies, it's a race to unravel the darkness that has fallen over her family before it claims her next.
So yeah, basically the first book is dealing with Annalee, who I loved her as a main character. I don't really remember what happens in that book, but all I remember is I really enjoyed the main character and the romance, and even the horror. I liked the horror in that one. It made me kind of want to get into that as a genre in YA. Admittedly, it's not a very fantasy-heavy book series. I would say it's more light fantasy, mostly just a lot of romance, and it's a very gothic book, for sure. And I enjoyed the setting of the first book, where we're on this little island that's secluded and isolated, and it just seems extremely like closed in this book. So if you would like to read that book, please do. I do think it's not necessary to read the first book, but it's definitely a good book. I would say for this second book, you do not have to read the first one. You could probably just jump right in. And this is coming from somebody who read the first book and then forgot all of it. Like, I don't know anything that happened really in the first book to this day, right now. And it's not because I didn't enjoy it or I didn't really read it. It's just because there was so much time between the two that you lose the lore, you lose the world. But luckily, when you get back into it in the second book, you just go right in. And like, it's fine. There's not really a period of time where you're like, what is this? So if you have not read the first book and you don't want spoilers for it, go ahead and peace out, because I'll be talking in depth to a certain extent. about the second book. So, bye! All right, now we're going to talk about the sequel / companion, House of Roots and Ruin, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars because, and actually, no. Actually, yes. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, tentatively, loosely, because it was more like a high 4, but it was so good enough that, and I like still think about it right now, it was good enough so that I'm like, let's pad that number and like bump it up a little bit. So we're going to bump it up. And side note, I digress. Did anybody hear the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale when you were growing up? Because I certainly didn't. I only heard about this story when I was well into my adulthood. So if you grew up with 12 Dancing Princesses, let me know. I'm curious. But here is kind of the gist of, or what the inside flap has to say about House of Roots and Ruin.
Despite dreams of adventure far beyond the Ceylon shores, 18-year-old Verity Thomas has remained at her family's estate, Highmoor, with her older sister Camille, while the rest of their family has scattered across Arcania. When Verity receives word that the Duchess of Bloem, wife of a celebrated botanist, is interested in having Verity paint a portrait of her son, Alexander, Verity jumps at the chance, but Camille won't allow it. Forced to reveal the secret she's kept for years, Camille tells Verity the truth one day. Haunted by tragic childhood events, Verity is still seeing ghosts. She just doesn't know it. Stunned, Verity flees Highmoor that night and, with nowhere else to turn, makes her way to Bloem. At first, she's captivated by the lush, verdant landscape and is quickly drawn to the charming, witty, and impossibly handsome Alexander Laurent. To her surprise, a romance blossoms. But it's not long before Verity is plagued with nightmares, and the darker side of Bloem begins to show through its sickly sweet facade.
Okay, if I had actually read the description on the flap before reading this one, I think I would have understood it more, because I don't know why, but I was convinced that this was going to be about Verity and Mercy. I have no idea why I was convinced that was going to be the case, but it's not. This is all about Verity and her basically wanting to go off on her own and live a life. She has been sheltered on the island of Ceylon for her entire 17, 18 years, and she is ready to strike out on her own. And Camille doesn't want her to. Camille is the quintessential, older sister, but is old enough so that she could be a mother figure, and in fact, she is one. And so Verity's kind of helping her older sister raise her children and being helpful around the house. And Verity's like, hey, can I have my coming out party and go off into the ether and live a life? And Camille's like, no, I don't think you can. Maybe next year. And just basically putting it off. And then, as the description states, Verity gets an opportunity to venture out into the unknown. And Camille's like, no, you really cannot do that. And in the book, there's a scene where she's kind of in this tavern-y thing, and she floats the idea to Camille, and Camille's like, absolutely not. No way, no how. And she leaves, and then you see this barmaid come to talk with Verity, and she gives her the tea on all the people in this tavern. And then Camille comes back, and she basically ignores the server girl that came. And Verity's like, that's not very nice. Come to find out that girl did not exist. It was a ghost. Verity finds out that her governess, nursemaid person has also been a ghost. Hannah Witten has never been alive with her, really. And that's what's funny, that the ghosts in this novel can sometimes be tangible. Sometimes. If they really want it bad enough, they can be. And so that is kind of what makes Verity confused, as anybody would be. If I thought that there was a ghost in the vicinity, I would go, can I touch you? Can I go right through you? If not, then you're a ghost. If I can't can't touch you, then you're a ghost. There we go. I got there in the end. Don't worry. But Verity has already accepted this proposal for her to go off and become this really amazing portraitist and work. And she thinks she's going to make her living as an artiste. And I'm sad because later on there's kind of an event that makes someone alludes to Verity not actually being that great of an artist. And I'm like, was she really not an artiste? I kind of want to have some artwork by Verity just to verify, like, was she good or not? But as you know, she ends up going to this foreign island place, into the mainland, I think. And that's where the story really starts off. And that's all I can say without, further spoilers. What I can say is that I love this book. The twists and turns were there. I was here for all of them. They were great. I really enjoyed Alexander. He was a lovely character in this novel. And it doesn't say this in the inside flap, but I don't really think this is a spoiler. Alexander is wheelchair bound, so that added an extra element of, not your normal romance, not your normal anything. And I think that it was really interesting to see, like, all the contraptions they had for him, because this book is set in, I don't know what time period, but early time period. And so there's not, like, a bunch of, like, gadgets and gizmos. And are they supposed to be in France? I feel like they're supposed to be in, like, a French type of a realm, because Alexander says he calls his grandmother grandmère, and that's French, so I assume they're in a French land, French inspired. But I think the only thing I didn't love about this book was, one, how horny everybody is. Like, why are we all, mostly just Verity. But, it's YA, you really can't get around it, and that's that on that. But I will say that another thing I didn't enjoy to the fullest was basically just that the writing style, when we're doing, like, dialogue and plot, like, things that forward the plot, it was well written. I loved it. But when it came to all of the descriptions of where Verity was, like when she gets to, what's this place called? Chantilly? We're going to call it Chantilly. When she gets to Chantilly, there's a lot of description. And it's very, as the book kind of feels, flowery. This book is heavily impacted by the flowers. And it's also very flowery. So that wasn't a wonderful aspect of the writing, but I still enjoyed it. I still got through it. So that's all I can say without really spoiling things. I do think that if you pick this one up, you will enjoy it. It was just a good time. So yeah, pick it up, and if you don't care about spoilers, keep listening. Okay, in our spoiler section, let's talk about some of the characters. So, of course, we have Verity, and I love this little one. She is just so optimistic about life. She really thinks that she's just gonna go out there to a foreign place where she knows no one and just, like, kill it. She really thinks she's gonna kill it. She's the perfect amount of innocent and strong-willed, headstrong, and, like, ignorant. I love it, like, because it's the youthfulness to her. You can tell she's very young, and she's also very strong, very strong-willed, very strong. You can tell that clearly in the ending scene of the book, and she was endearing. And I don't always love the female protagonists in novels, especially YA novels. Sometimes they can get on your nerves, because really all they have to do is forward the plot. But then it's like, to what end? So, Verity goes to Chantilly, and meets Dauphine, who is Alexander's mother, and Gerard, who is his father. And when you meet Verity and when you go to this this manor, you can tell she's like, this is a little ooky spooky creepy. Like, it's a really beautiful place, but I feel like all of the beauty is trying to mask, like, the sinister nature that's in this novel. And especially when you meet not necessarily Dauphine, because she seems pretty run-of-the-mill, duchess, like, regal and grand. And then you also meet Gerard, and Gerard seems spooky, ooky spooky when you meet him. First of all, because when he meets Verity, he pretends to be, like, the butler, and, like, takes her around the house to, like, because she got lost at one point, because Verity ends up staying with them, and they're like, okay, and then come down to dinner later, and she's like, okay, like, they're like, we will have the butler man come and escort you. And she's waiting, no one shows up, so she's like, let me just, like, take a peek outside my room and find my way down there. She can't find her way down there, and it turns out that Gerard has made a mirror image to the manor to accommodate Alexander, because Alexander fell down the stairs when he was really young and lost the usage of his legs. And so they added onto the house, so it's a little tricky, and you kind of don't know where you are. And then, so Gerard comes to pick her up in her room, cosplaying as the butler, and, like, gives her, like, the runaround, blah, blah, blah. And then they get downstairs, and Dauphine's like, oh, my husband. And Verity's like, what? That's Gerard? Oh, she's like, I feel so stupid. I was too familiar. And Dauphine's like, no, that's just him. He's just a trickster. He's just a quirky dude. So right then and there, that makes me go, untrustworthy. And then you realize that Gerard really enjoys his work. He is a botanist, and he's really just trying to make some beautiful things. He likes to cross-pollinate plants. He likes to experiment with things out of the natural order. And Alexander doesn't enjoy this, because he is, let's say, a purist. He believes that whatever came down from their gods, like, they don't touch that. He's like, worth over beauty. We can't improve upon what we were given. And Gerard says, no, we can definitely, there's room for improvement. And so there's some tension between father and son. And then there's also tension sometimes between Dauphine and Verity, because as Alexander and Verity get to know each other, they have a very fast engagement. Like, they basically have hung out twice, alone, probably. And then he's like, I think I love you, because he's been alone all his life. Besides his parents and his servants, he's been alone. And he's like, this is love. This is really it. When it's really, you just saw a pretty girl, man. You just caught feelings for a second. But, we'll let that pass. And so they have shown that they are on the track to, like, get engaged, get married. And so then Dauphine is like, ooh, you're basically my daughter. And so then you have, like, a little mother-in-law type of energy between Verity and Dauphine, which is very interesting to see. And then when, Alexander, he then decides to propose to Verity and takes her on this, like, really interesting trip to an underground, like, aquarium, essentially. And throughout this entire thing, he has said, hey, we're going to go to this, and then we'll be back upstairs for my mother's party. And then they try to get out, and they find that the door has been barred. And they're like, who could have done that? Who was trying to trap us? And pairing that with the fact that Verity has been seeing strange things. Verity has been seeing, some things that look like ghosts, but she's like, no, couldn't be. I don't see ghosts anymore. And she also has been seeing an Alexander lookalike. And this is where things got interesting, because I was like, this Alexander lookalike can be one of two things. It can either be Alexander isn't wheelchair bound, and that is the plot twist, and, like, he is evil. That was going through my mind at some point. And then I also thought it could have been that Gerard was experimenting, and he had, like, made, like, a little Frankenstein's monster, essentially. And I was like, could be that. It really could be. And in the end, you find that it's really just Alexander is one third of a set of triplets. And honestly, that one got me pretty good. I wasn't expecting that. you got me, Aaron. You did it. So they have been, they were barred in the little aquarium thing, and then they go back, and that's really where Verity is like, things don't seem quite right over here. And then, plus, she cannot get any sleep because there is this screaming and wailing that's happening on the grounds. And they're saying that it's just the peacocks. But she knows it's not the peacocks. But Verity is the type of person who will see 2 and 2, and she'll be like, couldn't be anything but 3. She cannot put the pieces together. She is in denial. Heavy denial. And also, throughout this entire thing, and this is what I hate this this twist in books. And by hate, I don't mean like I don't like it. I just mean like it's like, oh no. And that's when characters try to send mail out and it either doesn't go out or the responses don't come in. I hate that because it makes me feel like, oh my gosh, are they gonna die in this place? So that has been happening. She has been writing to her sisters Camille, Annalay, and Mercy, and she has not been getting any replies. And now that she's getting married, she's like, where are my replies? Where are my congrats, my felicitations? And I feel like now is a good time to talk about the twist of the triplets. So then we meet Victor formally because she has gone down, Verity has gone down to one of the parlors in the one that they do their portrait of Alexander in. She found Alexander, he's sitting in his chair, and Alexander is in a really terrible mood, and she's like, this is strange, I've never seen him in a terrible mood like this. And then she ends up going to inquire what's wrong, and he blows up, and he's like, oh, sorry, I'm sorry. And then starts making out with her. And now previously, this is the interesting bit, Verity enjoys being in Alexander's company. She really enjoys him as a person. She's like, I could love him. Like, it's going pretty quickly, but she feels good and comfortable with him. But whatever they kiss, she's like, I'm not feeling anything. It's not doing it for me. But then she ends up kissing Alexander this time, and she's like, that was it. That is the spark. Butterflies. Fireworks. And then she realizes, this is not Alexander. And then you're like, oh my goodness. And he's like, you're right, I'm Victor, his triplet. And then Julian comes out like from a secret door, and he's like, and I'm Julian, his other triplet. And you're like, it's very soap opera. And I think that's why I like this book so much. It's so soap opera. So anyways, you meet Victor and Julian, and Victor is this volatile personality who has pyrokinesis, and then you have his other brother, Julian, and Julian is the firstborn, the eldest, the one who should receive the dukedom, and Julian is able to read minds, so that's his thing. And then they're like, so what can our brother do? What can Alex do? And she's like, nothing. He can't do anything. And then she has to deal with, like, should I tell him? Should I not tell him? What's happening? And basically the triplets end up coming in saying, you need to help us because we're trying to get even with our father because he has locked us up, thrown away the key, and we've grown up without all of the things that we would like to grow up with. And she's like, okay, fine, because she really feels like Gerard is sketchy as well. And so, all that to say, I like that this book does not draw out the, oh, I need to tell my significant other some type of, like, scandalous thing, and so they draw it out so long that the person who needs to be told then gets angry because they haven't been told. And they're like, why am I the last one to know? And so that's the great thing about this book. That doesn't happen. Like, she waits, like, I think a day or two, and then ends up telling Alex. And then he, to his credit, he doesn't go, no, like, this couldn't be possible. Like, that can't be real. He is like, oh, since they're there, I see it. It's real. We should we should go to my dad. We should go to my mom and see what's happening. Who is complicit in this? And so I just really enjoyed that because I really don't like it when there's, like, that animosity towards the characters. Like, just tell the truth and then accept the truth from both sides. Thank you. But yeah, and then there is a love triangle kind of an aspect to this novel, like a slight love triangle. It goes on for like, I want to say 2 chapters, which is why it's a great love triangle, because sometimes they're really drawn out, y'all, and that just cannot be. I cannot abide that in my house. Okay, now let's talk about why Gerard is so awful. So Gerard was trying to make babies that were close to godhood, because, and that's the other thing, the lore of this world is confusing because it's kind of like Percy Jackson, where they have their gods that are like this deity, this thing that's to be revered and prayed to, and then but you can also see the gods like walking down the street. Like, it's really strange that they're so close to the humans, to the mortals. And Gerard hates them because his sister was born without hands, and so his father drowned her when she was a week old. And Gerard was like, if you guys were all that in a bag of chips, you would have stopped him, or you would have stopped her from being born like that. And so he's like, I don't believe in them, and I want to make something better. And so when he first got with Dauphine, he was like, let's make golden babies together. And so they do. He ends up pulling a kind of a, well, no, I can't spoil that book series. He pulls something happens, and then the triplets are born, but he can tell right away that only Alexander is like the golden one. So he sends the other 2 away. And, going back to the lore, we see one of the gods in this story. And I think, didn't we see one of the gods or a couple of them in book 1, maybe? We might have. I'm not sure. Can't remember. Amnesia. Plot twist. And so the whole grand finale of this novel is crazy because, 1, we have Dauphine dying because of a poisoning. 2, we have Gerard dying because he has been killed by Julian, because obviously 2 of the triplets hate Gerard. They're like, no, you gotta go. And then 3, Julian is killed by Victor because Victor is a bad seed. He's a bad, what's that phrase? He's a bad apple. He's a rotten one. And then we have the whole scuffle. And I didn't even mention the grandmother, because Grandmère is evil too. Like, at this point, everyone's evil. And I'm like, is Alexander evil? Like, what's happening with these people? Are they okay? And so, this is what I want to spend the most time on. Just the epic ending that was this book. So, you have a whole scuffle, and you're like, is Alexander going to be able to get out of this place? Because he's on the 2nd floor, and he has to use the lift that they have that's steam-powered. He has to use it to get down. But to do that, the latch has to be flipped, otherwise the contraption doesn't work. And so they really just need to try and get him down to the main floor, and Verity goes to put Victor off of his trail. And whilst doing that, she sees Marguerite. Is that her name? Margie. She sees Margie, and she thinks she's on her side, but nope, she is not on her side. And she's like, okay, now we need to kill Alex. And you're like, what? And so in all this scuffle, one of the twins, at this point, because Julian's gone, one of the twins falls down over the railing. And Verity is convinced that it is Alex. And she's, of course, really sad. And then Marguerite's trying to kill her at the same time. And you can't tell who it is because their eyes are a little different. I think one of their eyes is brown, one of them is green. Who knows? There's like a ring of something around them. And so, you can't see his eyes. You see nothing. Then, as Margie is trying to kill Verity, Camille comes in clutch and, kills Margie. So you're like, woo, yay, we did it, Dora the Explorer. So then later, Verity has been banged up. She's not feeling great. And she thinks that Alex is dead. And then Camille says, oh, no, he's over there, like, he's in his room resting. And she's like, his body? And she's like, no, just him. He's fine. And she's like, what? Cool. And then they make up, not make up, they get to reunite, and then they spend this whole scene going, do you still want to get married? Like, I understand if you don't, but like, do you? So then they get married, and it's really, really quick. Then you have the night of their wedding, and they go, okay, like, I'm glad I have you, blah, blah, blah. And then you wake up the next morning, and Verity's like, where is he? Like, he's not next to me in the bed. Like, he should be resting. He's been injured. And so then you look over, and he's on the chaise lounge, and he smiles at her. He's like, good morning, wife. And she's like, oh, like, Johan or Frederick must have, gotten him up and taken him over there. And then he goes, like, I'm glad you're my wife. And she's like, I'm glad you're my husband. They smile, kiss, whatever. And then the book says, and then he idly crosses his legs. And you know that Alexander is wheelchair bound. He can't cross his legs. And you're like, the wrong one stayed alive. But then in the epilogue, you see they're trying to prepare the bodies, because in this culture that they have, they prepare their bodies with like a certain type of a ritual, some seeds, some yada yada, because flowers, and then you see Daddy Gerard, you see Mommy Dauphine, you see Julian, who got like popped in the goozle with some scissors or whatever, and then you see the last one, who is of course Alexander, and then you see the girl who's doing his interment is like, I think he's moving, and he like switches a finger, and you're like, he's back, baby, he's back. He did not get got, because when Gerard was doing these experiments, he had the outcomes of Victor with fire, Julian with mind reading, and then Alexander is immortal. He cannot die. So, and that's why I skipped over this part. So the reason why Alexander is paralyzed is because Victor pushed him like off of a balcony 4 stories. So that's kind of why they were like, is he gonna live? Like, they thought he was donezo, dead. And then he's like, I'm okay, just, a little paralyzed, but I'm okay. So Gerard was like, yep, he's the one. He's the one. And I just think it's crazy. I think we need a sequel to, I'm torn. I kind of want a companion novel to this one, like, as in you go off with another sister, because it's a very good idea that Aaron A. Craig had of, like, each book is set on a different sister of the ones remaining from the first book. I think that's a great idea, and I want to know about Lenore. I really do, because Lenore is said to be this one who, she was one of a set of triplets. And she is, like, listless because she lost her 2 siblings. And so I want to know what she's doing. But also I want to be back in this setting. I want to be back with these characters in this setting, because I need to know. Like, that was way too much like Cliffhanger Nation. I need to know. I'm hanging. And I want to be up on the cliff or down. Just let me know. So, yeah. If you can tell, I really enjoyed this novel, and I think it really does deserve my 5 stars. And to that effect, we're going to read a 5-star review that somebody had on Goodreads. Shall we? We shall. Okay, I think this is a great review. I think it really surmises everything. This is by Brend. Brend's review has 5 stars and says, excuse me, what the actual expletive? I'm not going to cuss on this because this is a family channel. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this novel. It was so good, so grand. I was in the world, and this is a book where if you start it and then you have to go do something else, you will be thinking of it actively, like what's going to happen. So unless you just listen to these spoilers, and then you already know. So yeah, I am glad that I bought that book, but now I don't know what to read. My mood is telling me to read a thriller, but none of the ones that are on my TBR. What I kind of want to read is this book by Joelle Wellington, I think. And apparently it's supposed to be like a cross between Squid Games and The Bachelor, neither of which have I watched. I've never watched either one of them, but I'm really intrigued, and it's called Their Vicious Games. And I only say I'm intrigued because, one, I watched Olivia Reads a Latte. I love her vlogs, her reading vlogs. They're just really entertaining, and she makes me want to read. And two, I read the first 3 chapters of that book, and it really just sucks you in. So, still have no idea what it's about. Rich people, apparently, in like a boarding school thing. And I don't know where The Bachelor is going to come in, but it should. So, yeah. That's what I would like to read next. But yeah, that's my review for House of Roots and Ruin. If you've read this book, let me know. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? And if you got through this entire video, good for you. Please give it a like if you did. Go ahead and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you're listening on a platform podcast, go ahead and give me a 5-star rating review and or a like on any other type of platform you're on. And I will talk to you guys again next Moody Monday. I hope you guys had a nice time with me and that you get some reading time this week. And I will talk to you guys again next time. Hope everybody has a wonderful reading morning, noon, or night, and I'll talk to you later.